Good evening, everybody. Jack O'Malley coming to you live from, my residence in Lansing, the home that I share with a couple of other legislators. My hair's a little messy there. I've been driving all day today. But in Lansing, tonight we're in session this week, hopefully passing a budget. Learn more about that, I'm sure, tomorrow. As our appropriations folks have been working. As things have been the last few weeks, Mondays are kind of quiet because, the weekends have settled down a little bit. So maybe a little less information to report to you or less things happening, but the week should progress. I'll get to you on that. Just a couple of things that I think are important and interesting. Oakland County, one of the biggest counties in the state, if not one of the wealthiest, and is reporting, Oakland County, they had their, summary here, that they are expecting 25% job loss to the pandemic. They figure they're going to be down about 68,000 jobs this year. Now think about that. One of the biggest, wealthiest counties in the state is looking at 25% job loss and the loss of small business. What does that mean for rural Michigan, which is primarily small business? I'm really worried. I was chatting with with somebody about this just today. Some of the estimates I'm hearing from the Small Business Association, plus some of the energy companies that, of course, deal with businesses all the time, we could see in rural Michigan 20 plus businesses that are not going to survive the winter if they've survived so far. And again, we've got to get this economy going again. We've got to get businesses open. And many of our businesses, like movie theaters, wedding venues, things like that, are still being hampered. It's time to open everything up and get going with cautions, with protocols. Nobody's saying, just go willy-nilly. But I think we need to move forward. And again, it's important because numbers can scare people. I'll jump ahead just a little bit. We've got the director of DHHS back in this week in our COVID committee, and also he'll be bringing our state epidemiologist. There's a title for you. And this is the person who supposedly collects all the data from all the scientists. So there's lots of questions to be asked. But think about this. According to a couple of reports I've looked at over the weekend, because it's a 2-day summary now, because they don't compile them just on Sunday alone. The weekend, 12 passed, again, due to COVID, but there's some questions as to what comprises a COVID death. 12 have passed, and there were 1,500 tested positive over the weekend. Here's the interesting thing. Overall, new cases in the state of Michigan remain flat. Testing is steady at about 30,000 plus a day, and you're going to see more cases, right, with testing, because it's a virus. It's out there. Nobody says it isn't. And hospitalization is stable. Hospitalization is stable, and critical care, those folks that are, ventilators and the like, critical care issues are at the lowest since mid-April. So again, the question is, where are we headed? Why are we still continuing with many of the thoughts that we have? And then, again, there's the threat of the second wave. I get that. But if we don't get all the answers from our if we don't get rid of all the information from our epidemiologist, how do we know? Why won't they show us that data? So it's going to be an interesting hearing on Wednesday. Some questions will be asked, let me tell you. Finally, we're getting to talk to somebody. We'll see if they give us answers. Just on another note, from a personal standpoint, bills that I'm working on that were delayed because of COVID and such and such. The child care bills, it's a 3-bill package. Myself, Rep. Wenzel, and Rep. Markkinen, those got voted out of Children, Family, and Seniors last week. They are now headed to Ways and Means. We'll see how that goes, but we're continuing to work on those. Our emergency management, I'm not going to get into too much detail here, but we're starting to get support now that the thing's out there, and some very important groups have come to our side. So that's good news. I'll have more on that as it becomes available. And then the school bus bills, I'm not sure if they're in judiciary this week or not, but they are getting ready to move on to the House floor too here soon. Knock on wood. And this is an interesting one. We're going to have testimony on my flooding task force recommendation in natural resources this week. And as I understand it, Eagle is going to be opposed to that bill. And what this bill does is it sets up a task force. Once we get to the point where all our current situations have settled down, would set up a task force to look backwards and see what we can learn from our past events. Remember, just in recent history, 73 had high water, 86 had high water, now 19 and 20 have had high water situations. This task force, I'm saying, look, over all those years, we haven't learned a stick from any of this stuff. We need to be like Florida. We need to be like California, who've learned from hurricanes and have learned from earthquakes on how to, you can't stop them, but how do you better prepare your infrastructure? So I think that's an important task force. But right now the governor is opposed to it, I think mainly because her office says, well, we can do this on our own. And I would argue that we need legislation to make sure it happens. There may have been some great, well-meaning and intentioned people from 73 to 86 to today, but it never happened because, again, I use my analogy. When it's raining, you have a leaky roof, but then when it's not raining, you forget about it until it rains again. So I want this task force to say, no, come on, state, let's look at this long term as opposed to just the short-term fix. Right now, it doesn't sound like Eagle's willing to do that. So still a ways to go. We'll have testimony this week, but I think it's important how we move forward. So a short note tonight, again, here in Lansing a little early, and a big week ahead here as we look to pass the budget. It'll be interesting to see exactly what information comes out of that. As I understand it, last week the initial agreements were made from both the Senate leadership, House leadership, and the governor's budget people with the idea of the overall budget. Now there was sent to the subcommittees to discuss each individual budget on its own merits and where that money could be. So we'll see. I hope personally that we get money back for pure Michigan, especially rural Michigan, but all of Michigan needs that now. We need to attract people back to the state and say, come on and visit. It's a great place. So if you remember, that got nixed by the governor a year ago in budget negotiations. So we got to get that back. So that's going to be a big one. Hopefully we can make that happen. So a short but sweet update tonight. I'll have more for you on Wednesday. We'll have had the hearing in our COVID oversight. And some other things, of course, will happen, I'm sure, between now and then. But that's where we're at. I think, again, numbers are remaining flat on the COVID front. That's good. Folks have figured it out. Again, that's one of my angles on this dangle right from the beginning is that, yes, early on we needed to say, whoa, everybody, hang on here. Let's get this thing figured out. But as we've moved forward, we've stayed too restrictive and 181 confusing executive orders. That is definitely putting a pinch on a lot of people. And still, some businesses in the state remain closed only because, I guess, the science and data tells somebody that. And we've got the people in to COVID oversight this week who hopefully will answer those questions. We'll try. All right. Have a good evening. Enjoy your Monday. We'll talk to you on Wednesday. Good night, everybody.